Hi everyone, I hope this video finds you all well. My name is Ms. Vasquez. I am the AmeriCorps Vista / LEP 12th grade transition planner at Diego Rivera Learning Complex. Today we will be going over Cal Grants. This is also my first video, so please bear with me. I apologize for any background noises that come up. So let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to navigate web grants, creating an account, what is a Cal Grant income ceilings, a little bit more on Cal Grants, and then a video by California Student Aid Commission on the basics, and another video on special circumstances. So for the last slide, we're actually not going to go through it, but if you for some reason fall under special circumstances, feel free to watch the video. I will definitely send out a link of this presentation and this video. Okay, so let's go ahead and watch this short clip.
Hello, and welcome to the Grants for Students webpage, or we'll use Web Grants for Students. This is a Web Grants for Students webpage. This page can be reached by going to the California Student Aid Commission website and following the links, or by going to mygrantinfo.csac.ca.gov as indicated at the top of this page. From this page, students can access their account or easily create a new account. Web Grants for Students is accessible with most popular web browsers and with virtually all devices, including smartphones, tablets, laptop, and desktop computers. In order to gain access to Web Grants for Students, the student must register for an account. For FAFSA filers, students will need their Social Security number, their full legal name, and their date of birth as it's shown on the FAFSA to create a username. For California DREAM Act applicants, students will need their DREAM Act ID number, their full legal name, and their date of birth as it's shown on the California DREAM Act application. Please note, those with a DACA Social Security number should not enter in their DACA Social Security number when registering an account. Once that registration information is submitted,
so a little bit to go over what he just said. So this for the social or California DREAM Act ID slot right here, do not include any dashes. For username and your name, it will automatically be all caps. That's per the system. Make sure to write both down or everything down that you wrote. The name you provide should also be the one you gave on your FAFSA or California DREAM Act application. This is crucial because that is the way that they match your application with this website. Once you register, you cannot change your name or your Social Security number. So you do have to make sure to get all that information correct before you register.
students will simply check their email and follow the instructions within that email to activate their account. Once the student checks their email, they will be prompted.
So this is how the email will look like. It's by CSAC, and they will give you a link. Again, he will go more over this.
To create a password via the Create Password button. Once they click on this button, they will be able to create a new password. Please note that this link is only valid for 24 hours. Please also note the student must check the email they used on their FAFSA or California DREAM Act application. Once the student has created their password, they are then asked to sign into the Web Grants for Students webpage. Students will need to wait up to 5 minutes before the initial login. As a security feature, Web Grants for Students has implemented two-factor authentication. After the student signs into their account, they will be prompted to enter in a two-factor authentication code. The student will then be emailed a one-time passcode to use during the sign-in process for every login. Please note the students will have only 2 minutes every time they sign in to enter this code. If they are unable to enter in the code within the 2-minute window, they will have to start this process over. It is in this screen that they will enter in their two-factor authentication code. The student should not close the window prior to entering in the one-time passcode. If the window is closed, the student will need to repeat this process. Right before attaining access to the student homepage, the student will also need to set up 3 security questions. Please note that students will not be able to change the answers to the security questions, so it is important they remember their answers and how they spell these out and whether or not they use capital letters, special characters, etc.
So that is very crucial. So if you, for some reason, wrote the answer as apple and you capitalize the A and you put a 3 for the E, you want to make sure to highlight those two characters when writing it down, because that lets you know that those two characters are different than the rest. Please make sure to write these down and write them just as you type them on the website.
Students should store their security answers in a secured place, as the California Student Aid Commission will not be able to access the answers. The Web Grants for Students webpage has the advantage of allowing the student to access most of their information on one single page. In the Web Grants for Students webpage, once the student is signed in, they will see 4 tabs at the top of their toolbar: the Home tab, the My Applications tab, the Student Forms tab, and the My History tab. Right below these tabs, the student may access their general demographic information. It is here where they can also edit their profile. This is also where the student can access their CSAC ID, which they can use to verify their identity to CSAC rather than having to use their SSN. Today, we have provided you with an initial peek at the Web Grants for Students webpage.
Okay, so that was it for this video, but I also want to let you all know that you can also find what other information you can find on this website, which is information for student parents, what type of awards you are also eligible for foster youth, what other awards you're eligible for. Also, this is the website where you go to change your school of choice. So this has to be done by May 1st or before May 1st, because you do need to verify that the school where you're going is going to receive this information. If you see, this is where you also see if you've been awarded a Cal Grant or not, and what the status of it is. This is also where you're going to do your high school graduation verification, which is due on August 31st. Okay. All right, so what is a Cal Grant? So it is free money from the state of California. This is money you do not have to pay back. It is given to eligible residents of California and eligible AB 540 students who are attending eligible schools. So this is a mouthful. We do provide, we say eligible because some residents of California and AB 540 students unfortunately are not granted a Cal Grant. So one of the things that they do let us know is that that you have to go to one of these eligible schools. So I'll just go quickly down this document, but I will be providing once again the link on the PowerPoint, so you can check this out as well. And then to receive this grant, you must have applied to FAFSA or the California DREAM Act application by March 2nd, 2020. Most of you all, if not all of you, should have applied to either one of these applications. So you are already eligible. So there are 3 different types of Cal Grants: Cal Grant A, B, and C. We'll be going over this a little bit more in the following slides. There's also this link at the bottom from California Student Aid Commission that kind of tells you what A, B, and C are. But I want to highlight the main differences, which is Cal Grant A will help pay for tuition and fees at 4-year colleges. Cal Grant B provides a living allowance of up to $1,672 in addition to tuition and fee assistance after the first year at a 2 or 4-year college. And Cal Grant C assists with the cost of a technical or career education. The award coverage also varies, and the GPA requirements are also different. So let's go ahead and go through those. So for Cal Grant A, there is a GPA minimum of a 3.0. The degree requirements are a minimum of a 2-year program, associate's or bachelor's degree. Award coverage, up to 4 years of tuition and fees at eligible California schools. For those attending community college, can put it on reserve for a max of 2 years, but can extend to reserve for 1 more year. And something new is that students with dependent children may be eligible for an access award of up to 6 grand. So Cal Grant B, different from Cal Grant A in the sense that this GPA minimum is a 2.0. The degree requirements are a minimum of a 1-year program as opposed to a 2-year program. This one also includes certificates, which Cal Grant A does not. So for Cal Grant B, it's certificate, associate's, or bachelor's degree, award coverage, tuition and fees at eligible California schools for up to 2 to 4 years. The Access Award, again, for up to 4 years, $1,672. You can put this award on hold if you attend a community college, but when you transfer, you will only have 2 years of this award left. So it's up to you whether you want to use it or not. Students with dependent children may be eligible again for an Access Award of 6 grand. So for Cal Grant C, it's not mentioned that much just because it is kind of uncommon and a competitive award. This grant, though, does not have a GPA requirement. It does have program requirements such as vocational technical occupation programs. You must be enrolled in one of these for at least 4 months in length. The award coverage, they provided a table down below. So for the year of 2019-2020, for books and supplies, if you were going to a community college, you have $1,094 to use. If you were to go to an independent or vocational college, you would have $547 for books and supplies. For tuition and fees, unfortunately, if you go to a community college, there's nothing there. And if you go to an independent/vocational, you have up to 2 grand. Oh, once again, there is a link right here, so you can click on that to learn more about Cal Grant C. So income ceiling. So this is what CSAC uses to award Cal Grants as well. So this is just a clip of it, but there is a link for you all to use as well to see more about the Cal Grant ceilings and what other amounts of awards you're eligible for. So it's just, okay. So here is a little bit more on there. So for Cal Grant A, if you go to a community college, you can reserve it for 2 years. Again, if you want to extend it, you can appeal. If you go to a CSU, these are the amounts of money that you can receive. For UC right here, for independent private schools or for-profit schools, these are the amounts. For Cal Grant B, like I said, the award is, you can save it, you can hold it, but unfortunately, you'll only be able to use it for another 2 years. For CSU, these are the amounts as well. UC, independent, for-profit. Cal Grant C, again, for 1 to 2 years. For CCs, for CSUs, it's not eligible. UC, not eligible. For independent, this is the amount that they would be willing to give you. For profit, down here. And there's just a little bit more information regarding CSAC and the Cal Grant program. So let's go back here and present you with an example. So we have this example of Casey. She has a 2.8 GPA. She is in a family of 4, which makes 60 grand. She plans to attend a 4-year university. Does Casey qualify for a Cal Grant? So if we take a look at the Cal Grant income ceilings on the left, we see that she could potentially get a Cal Grant B because if we remember, For Cal Grant A, you need a 3.0 GPA, which Casey does not have. Cal Grant B is a 2.0 GPA, which Casey does have. She has a 2.88. And Cal Grant C, it's a occupational and vocational, but she wants to attend a 4-year university, so this does not apply in this case. So the answer, if we look at the income ceilings, she unfortunately is not eligible for a Cal Grant. She will not be awarded because she does not meet the GPA requirement for Cal Grant A, since she needs a 3.0. Also no on Cal Grant B, because even though she meets the 2.0 requirement, her parents make more than the income ceiling, which is 53 grand, because they make 60 grand. So unfortunately, these cases are not uncommon. Many students will not, unfortunately, not be eligible for a Cal Grant, even though they are, they do have the GPA. Maybe the family makes more, or the family makes just enough, but the student doesn't have the GPA. So this is something that you all should pay close attention to if you still need a little bit more help understanding why it is that you didn't receive a Cal Grant. We can discuss that further. Just let us know as well. Okay. And then more on Cal Grants. So for Cal Grant B this year, they mentioned that those who applied and completed a CA DREAM Act application can be considered for one of 2,500 Cal Grant B Service Initiative grants of up to $3 grand per year. So this is a new program that they are beginning this year. So if you have more questions, please let us know as well. I have provided different links here too. This is a financial aid booklet that they give out all the time. And this just goes over just financial aid in general, what type of financial aid awards there are available. But I wanted to direct you all to the Cal Grant portion. So here is just a little bit more of information for you all to check out when you have time. The other thing is Cal Grants in regards to the CSU system. So these are the eligibility requirements, which we've already touched upon, but it's specific to how the CSU system treats it. Okay, and then a little bit more on Cal Grant Basics from the California Student Aid Commission. So we'll play a little bit.
Okay, so let's take a couple minutes and we're going to talk about Cal Grant Basics. So the Cal Grant Basic requirements have not changed very much. You know, this is a list of kind of what they look like. And you can see these are the basic requirements. Now, naturally, an AB 540 student, so someone who's potentially eligible to fill out the DREAM Act application, doesn't meet all these requirements, right? Because they don't have to be a U.S. citizen, they don't have to have a social, and they don't necessarily have to be a California resident. But in general, these are the requirements to be given consideration for a Cal Grant award. Now, the award process starts very simply with two things. A student, in order to be considered for a Cal Grant, so the initial consideration, they have to have two things. If they don't have these two things, they won't even be given consideration. So, especially for, I would say, high school students, you know, who are graduating this year, or high school students who graduated last year, what's really critical is that they get this application done on time and that they have a matching GPA. So if you're a public high school or charter, you know, by law, you have to upload a GPA. So how does this work? So you will complete and upload GPAs, right? If you're a public high school or charter, you have to do it. If you're a private school, you should.
So the this is on behalf of the school. Your counselor should have uploaded this a while ago. Let's move forward to this.
Following. The system will say, okay, we've got a GPA, we've got to do everything early. That makes life much easier. So what happens when they fill out an application and they match to a GPA is the following. The system will say, okay, we've got a GPA, we've got an application. What are we going to look at next? And these are the qualifying factors that we're going to look at next, right? We're going to look at the income and assets, the GPA, the financial need, which has a lot to do based on where the student is attending, and the program type. So in other words, are they taking something at school that allows them to get a Cal Grant? So that's what we look at next, and that's the next part of the process. So I told you previously we were going to talk about Cal Grant awards, A and B, as it pertains to entitlement and competitive. So you don't need to remember all of this. Here's what you need to remember. Entitlement's good. Entitlement's better. We want students to be eligible for entitlement. Competitive is better than nothing, but it's still limited because there's so many people who get processed for consideration and so few of that number who actually get it. So the window for an entitlement award, and let me just say, you're saying, well, I still don't get it. What's entitlement? So entitlement means that the award is guaranteed for students who meet the basic requirements. So if you meet the requirements, you get the award. Entitlement means that the state doesn't say, yeah, we only have this many awards, or we only have this much money. If you're entitled to the award based on your financial need, right, and your GPA and all those other things we considered, you automatically get the Cal Grant. So you could see that it's really important that hopefully high school seniors are graduating and they have a Cal Grant, because frankly, they're never going to have an easier time getting a Cal Grant. The other thing is, for students who graduate from high school, they have a 2-year window of opportunity. So the year they graduate and the following year, right? The other window for entitlement is a student who transfers from a community college to a 4-year. Then there are some other restrictions, like a 2.4 GPA. There's an age requirement, so you have to be under the age of 28 by the end of the award year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there are some requirements, but if you meet that eligibility, you automatically get it. So now we know what an entitlement is. What is competitive? Competitive is everybody else. Everybody else. So if you didn't get the entitlement award for whatever reason, you are put into this competitive mix where you're going to be scored, and it's going to be difficult because there are a lot of students applying, and even though it's gone up to 41,000, a lot of students are not going to get that award. So certainly you don't want to tell anyone, well, maybe you'll get the competitive. I mean, it's always possible, and certainly great for those students who get it. But again, 300,000 plus people applying and 41,000 awards. So do the math. You can say, it's better than nothing, but the odds aren't great. All right. And the big takeaway is that DREAM Act applicants are now eligible for the very first time. So that's great. And any other student who doesn't meet the entitlement qualifications, they're eligible. So they'll get thrown into the mix, they'll be scored, and then they'll get notified. And that's basically the difference between entitlement and competitive. All right. So here's just kind of a recap of what I just talked about. So I'm not going to go over this point by point. I am just going to leave this up here for a couple seconds so you can look at it. All right. So basically what I said, here's the entitlement periods, here's the competitive periods, here's who's eligible. Okay, another important part of getting a Cal Grant is ensuring that you go to a Cal Grant eligible school. So a Cal Grant eligible school, which by the way is the vast majority of schools in the state of California, and includes obviously all California community colleges, all CSUs, all UCs. They're always going to be Cal Grant eligible. And many of the private or private for-profit schools are also eligible. But having said that, not all schools are eligible, right? So
when you decide to go to out-of-state school, you will not eligible for a Cal Grant.
When little Johnny says, I'm going to this muffler repair school and I think I can get a Cal Grant, you may want to say, yeah, let's check that. Not 100% sure that muffler repair school offers a Cal Grant. Maybe they do, I don't know. But you want to check, right? Because obviously if you can go to a Cal Grant eligible school, it's going to increase significantly the chance that you're going to get financial aid. So that's what we want students to do. So you can find this on our website. If you navigate to the CSAC website, and you can see the address up there, we have a link at the very bottom that says Cal Grant eligible schools. When you click that link, it'll give you the entire list of Cal Grant eligible schools. And remember,
so this is the link that I pulled up a little while ago. If your school for some reason is not on here, then you might want to check in with the financial aid office at that school to make sure that they do or don't offer a Cal Grant.
this information gets updated. So virtually every month, if for any reason a school drops off or a school gets added, right? And they're completely ready to be Cal Grant eligible, or they've lost Cal Grant eligibility, whatever the case may be, these reports, this list gets updated. So you can be fairly confident that what's on there is accurate. You can also look at the ineligible Cal Grant schools, which is a much shorter list, but when you go to the website, you have the opportunity to check on that as well. All right, let's talk about Cal Grants, the different Cal Grants. So you remember we had A, B, and C, right? Now, there are some differences between them. Here's the one thing you need to remember. You don't, as a high school counselor or a student advocate or, whatever it is you're doing to assist students, you don't play a huge role in what Cal Grant a student's going to get. You don't. Why is that? Well, because you don't control the income and assets of the family. Let's start with that. And number two, the system's going to make the determination what Cal Grants the student is eligible for based on.
So that's another quick thing. The system is the one that grants you the Cal Grants. It is not us helping you all. It is not something that you all can fix later on. Or maybe you can up your GPA, but as far as that goes, right, we don't have anything to do with how your family makes as well. So make sure to understand that too.
All those other factors that we talked about previously. So don't feel like you have to memorize this. You're never going to tell a student, hey, go for the Cal Grant B, it's the best. Student's going to get what the student gets based on the criteria of the program they're attending and all those factors that we considered.
Also, this is a training for counselors or folks that are helping students, so they might be addressing us and not you all, but I wanted to share this video because it lets you all know a little bit more about the Cal Grants from the folks who set this program up.
So including GPA and the financial information. So they're going to get what they get. But let me briefly explain the differences. So Cal Grant A, you'll notice that the GPA minimum is 3.0. So let's remember that because we're going to talk about that some more. Cal Grant A basically will pay 4 years of tuition and fee at a 4-year school. If a student is going to a community college and they don't have dependent children, it will automatically go on reserve for up to 2 years, and then they can apply for the third. So Cal Grant A at a community college, again, dependent children can change this, but if you don't have dependent children, if you have a Cal Grant A at a community college, you don't get paid anything. It goes on reserve because Cal Grant A only pays at a 4-year school, and it only pays the tuition fee portion. Now, at the bottom, you notice, hey, wait a minute, there's something new. We talked about this previously. If you have a Cal Grant A and you have dependent children, regardless of the school that you're going to, so you're going to any state school, community college, CSU, UC, you can be eligible for up to $6,000. So that's significantly different than it was before. Before, if you had a Cal Grant A, regardless of your circumstances or whether or not you had kids, it automatically went on reserve at a community college. That's not always the case. So keep that in mind. All right. Cal Grant B, you notice that the GPA is 2.0. Cal Grant B is a little bit quirky in that the first year, Cal Grant B only pays $16.72 in Access award money. So what does that mean? That means if you have a Cal Grant B and you're going to a UC or a CSU or a community college or a private college, the most you're going to get is $1,672. And you're probably thinking, well, that's okay for a community college, but that is certainly not so hot for a UC or for an expensive private school. And we get it. So what happens with Cal Grant B? So the first year, most of the time, but not always, students who have a 0 EFC, for example, and we'll talk about that, I think, a little bit later, but basically, if you have a Cal Grant B, most of the time you have sufficient financial need that the first year at a UC or a CSU, you're going to get institutional aid to cover the tuition and fee portion. Now, that's not always true. It can vary based on the student's financial need. But generally speaking, if you have a Cal Grant B, you have significant financial need, and that means that at a 4-year, it's likely that you're going to get institutional aid to cover the tuition and fees. Now, at a private school, that may not be the case. So we're going to talk about Cal Grant A and B and what you can do in that scenario. So a couple things that you should know. There's a lot of programs, a lot of legislation, a lot of...
So I just wanted to show you all a little bit more about Cal Grant A and B from folks at California Student Aid Commission. But again, like I said, this video will also be linked on the presentation that I will be sharing. And then here is, again, the special circumstances video. If you, for some reason, fall under this special circumstances, then you are free to check this video out a little bit more. Again, I will be sharing this presentation. If you all need any support or have any questions about what we just went through, feel free to email me, text me. I will link all of this on Schoology and on this presentation. So that was it from me. Thank you all for joining.